Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I have not been making videos for like really long time. I don't have an excuse. I've been working on school and work, and I do college full-time and I do work like a 35-hour-a-week job, so I'm just always busy. And then the free time, the very little free time that I do have, I typically am either with my family, with my friends, or, just trying to relax and unwind from my crazy life. So, I don't have an excuse, but I'm gonna try to do better. I've been in a huge reading slump for like forever, and I honestly have had such a hard time getting out of it. And so I'm hoping that if I try to keep up a little bit more with BookTube and with this channel, that I will be able to just read more. Hopefully, we'll see. I have a new background, obviously. Seems like my background changes with every video, and that's probably true. I moved again. This is like the third time in the last 2 years that I've moved, I think. Second time in the last 2 years? Yeah, second time I've moved in the last 2 years. And I bought this really cool cube. I'm using it as a bookshelf, and I really love it, so I thought it'd make a really good background. I put up my Halloween spiderweb lights up there, so really excited about that. It's finally October, so I am so excited for Halloween. I have been, like, planning my costume. I've been getting a group of people together to go to Fright Fest at Six Flags, like, watching scary movies. I went out and bought, like, 10-ish Halloween movies at Half Price Books. I bought like a whole bunch of slasher movies. I don't like scary movies, but I love like slasher movies. So I went out and I bought a bunch of those, and I've been ready for Halloween for the last month, and it's finally October, and I am so excited. It's not even funny. And so that brings me to the topic of today's video. I thought the perfect video would be my TBR pile for the month of October. So for October, I am gonna try and get back into reading, obviously. So I have a few books, not a whole lot of books, but enough that I'm hoping I'll be able to finish them. And I picked like kind of semi-spooky books. Not all of them are spooky, and I wouldn't say any of them are particularly scary or necessarily like Halloween books. They're just a little bit eerie kind of, and so I thought that they'd be good reads for Halloween this year. So let's get started. Okay, so the first book I want to talk about I actually already read. I read it for class, and I am making this like a week into October, so I did read it in October. The class that I'm taking is Symbols and Archetypes in Children's Lit, so it's a kid's book, but it's not like a picture book, it's like a chapter book. And it's kind of like older kids. It's not quite young adult, but it's older kids. And I actually chose this book. We were able to choose from a whole list. We had a ton of books, a ton of options. And I actually chose this one because I was like, okay, it sounds so spooky, and it's Halloween month, and I have to write a paper on it. So I'm like, I might as well read something real spooky. Let me tell you, first of all, it freaked me out. I read it for my class like 2 days ago. I read it, just sat down in one day and read it, and then I wrote the essay yesterday, and it was a little freaky, to be honest with you. I wasn't really expecting it. Sorry, the angle changed. I had to switch to the back of my camera. I'm using my phone. Anyway, so this spooky book is Doll Bones by Holly Black. This is about 3 kids, Zach, Alice, and Poppy, who play this like make-believe game together, and Zach decides he doesn't want to play anymore after some drama happens with his father. I don't want to give too much away. And so and so Poppy steals the doll from her mom that they've been pretending is the queen. And so this doll has been locked in a cabinet, and her mom has forbidden her from touching it, but they still pretend like she's the queen of all their realms, right? So Alice breaks into the cabinet and she steals, I keep saying that. Poppy breaks into the cabinet and she steals the doll. And she ends up having this dream about this little ghost girl, Eleanor, who the doll is made from her bones and her ashes are inside the doll. And she takes Zach and Alice to the shed in the middle of the night, and she tells them this story, and she says, we have to go bury this doll. We have to bury the doll in Eleanor's grave so that she can be put to rest, otherwise she's gonna haunt us. And so Zach, Alice, and Poppy go on a little adventure to go about 3 hours away from their hometown to East Liverpool, Ohio. and, you know, they faced some tests along the way, and, you know, it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. It was really spooky. I actually, I think that if I'd been aware that it was going to be as spooky as it was, I wouldn't have been as scared. But because I wasn't really, like, mentally prepared for it to be that spooky, because I was like, oh, it's a kid's book, like, it's not going to be that freaky. But it was, like, relatively freaky. I mean, there were a couple scenes where, like, Zach would wake up and the doll would be, like, right by his head, and the doll had been, like, in Poppy's arms when he fell asleep. And I was like, okay. And, like, it was just, there were, like, a few scenes where the doll, like, really seemed to be alive, and it freaked me out just a fair bit, just a little bit, but it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I'd probably give it, like, a 4 out of 5 stars. I think the only thing that was really lacking for me was that it was just a little bit, slow in the beginning. I felt like I understand why she needed to take so much time kind of building up to this adventure and why they want to go on the adventure and, you know, why Zach agrees to go. But I just wish that there had been a little bit more adventure and a little bit less descriptions of, you know, Zach's time at school. Like, I didn't really feel like that was necessary. But overall, I really did enjoy it, and I really, really would recommend it. Actually, if you're looking for, like, a kid's book that's, like, a little spooky, but, like, not too spooky for Halloween, definitely this was a good one. Okay, the next book I already took the dust jacket off for, but I will, because I'm in the middle of reading it, but I will put a picture on the screen here next to me, and that is Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco. Oh my god. Okay, guys, let me tell you, this is my favorite series of all time. Easily my favorite series of all time. I am obsessed with it. I have a tattoo for it, this rose tattoo on the side of my arm. Ignore the sunflower, but the rose on the side of my arm, that is for this series. And, like, I'm gonna get another one at some point. So good. Highly recommend it. But Capturing the Devil specifically, I'm really, little backstory, I'm really interested in serial killers. I'm very fascinated by the psychology of them and, you know, just all of that good stuff. I actually took a class a couple semesters ago about serial killers and homicide and just, like, kind of how certain events can lead to serial killers and psychology behind them, but then it also just generally, like, talked about their crimes and how they were caught and how they, like, what their sentencing was and all that good stuff. It was a very fascinating class, very creepy. And so the reason I picked this one for Halloween is because I should have read it last month when it came out, and I've been busy and I haven't had a chance to. I did start it, you can see my little bookmark, but I'm not very far. But I wanted to read it when it first came out, but I've just been really busy, especially because I've been in my classes right now. But this week is my last week of classes, so I'm hoping I can just, like, finish it in, like, 2 days. So Capturing the Devil is the final book in the series, and it is set in my favorite city, and it's about my favorite serial killer, and it's about also my favorite theory for who Jack the Ripper was. So Capturing the Devil is set in Chicago during the, God, I want to say it's the 1889 World Fair, but I'm going to put right here if I'm wrong because I'm almost positive I am. I know it was in the 1800s, and it was the World's Fair in Chicago, where H.H. Holmes would basically build this hotel that was a murder hotel. He had, you know, secret passageways and tunnels, trapdoors. He had an incinerator in the basement. He had gas chambers, all of these things that made murdering people really easy. And so young women would come and they'd stay in his hotel and they'd go missing. But nobody knew they were missing because family members, friends just thought that they were, you know, at the World's Fair. It was hectic, it was chaotic, and so they weren't expecting them home. And so then after the World's Fair had passed, the family members started to realize, like, okay, these girls are missing, they're gone. And by that time, their bodies had been, you know, long gone, using the incinerator in H.H. Holmes' basement. And so he's a really creepy guy. You know, I want to say he had 2 different lives with 2 different families, and he was crazy. That's too much history on H.H. Holmes. You don't need to know all that. Basically, the book is about them capturing H.H. Holmes in Chicago. And one of the theories that Carrie Maniscalco actually worked on in this book and kind of ties in is that H.H. Holmes potentially may have been Jack the Ripper. He was in London at the time of the Ripper killings. It was said that some of the girls who were killed were seen talking to an American, and he somewhat fits the description of what witnesses have accounted Jack the Ripper to have looked like. And then that would also explain why Jack the Ripper stopped killing people. If he came back to America, if he came home to America, obviously his killings would have been continued in America and stopped in London. And so it's not the most popular theory. Actually, most historians think they know who Jack the Ripper was. They have a pretty good grasp on the idea of this specific person being Jack the Ripper. I can't remember his name at the current moment, but I actually learned about it while I was in London on a Jack the Ripper tour. But basically, one of the theories is that maybe it was H.H. Holmes. And, I don't know that I believe that theory, but it is one of my favorite theories to learn about because I love H.H. Holmes so much. Not, like, in a weird way, just, like, I like to learn about him. He's my favorite serial killer to learn about. So I can't wait to read this book with all that said, and I'm sorry about my rant. And, yeah, feel free to skip through all of that, because I just kind of went off there and wasn't really expecting to. Okay, so I have 2 more books, and they go together. They're part of a series. They're the first 2 books in the Mara Dyer series. I have The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer and The Evolution of Mara Dyer, sorry. And I love this series. I have read it before. I read the first 3, so I read the 3 Mara Dyer books. I want to say it was a few years ago, because it was back when I was living in Chicago, so it was at least like 3 years ago. And I love them. They're so weird and creepy and just so interesting and really confusing too. Like, I feel like there's still a lot that I don't understand, which is why I'm excited to reread them and like kind of try to understand those aspects that I didn't quite maybe catch on to the first time around. But anyways, so the new Noah Shaw series is being released. There's 2 of the books out right now. And I still haven't read them. And I want to read them, but I wanted to go back and reread the Mara Dyer series first. So I just wanted to kind of binge them all and read all the way through them. And, like I said, I've been in a slump, so I'm trying to set realistic expectations for myself, and I don't think I can read all of them this month just because I know myself. And so I'm just putting the first 2 on my list for my TBR this month. I think that is realistic and possible. So if you've never heard of the Mara Dyer series, which is crazy in my opinion because they're fairly old, relatively old. Anyways, they are about this girl who witnesses the death of some people close to her. It's like her best friend and her friend's brother, and she's the only survivor in this accident. And so she ends up moving with her family to Florida, and when she moves, she starts experiencing these weird things. So she starts like seeing the ghost of her friend's brother, who we end up finding out had been like hitting on her at the site of the accident and had been like being kind of creepy. She ends up like seeing what she thinks is his ghost because he's supposed to be dead, but she's not really sure what it is. And she ends up like having these weird things happen to her where she like thinks something and it'll happen. I don't want to get too into detail in case you decide to read it. Basically, all this really creepy stuff starts happening to her, and she ends up meeting Noah Shaw, and they kind of, just live in the drama together. So you just kind of get a taste of like all this spooky stuff that starts happening to Mara Dyer, and it just eventually rolls into a big climax that I'm not going to reveal because spoiler alert, but this series is honestly super amazing as far as I can remember. Of course, I'll make another video when I finish them and let you guys know if I still think that they live up to, what I have in my head of them. But I did really enjoy them the first time around, so. Alright, so that's all I have for today. Like I said, I'm really sorry I haven't been posting. I'm gonna try so hard to do better. I probably won't, but it's worth an effort. It's worth a shot, right? So thank you guys for watching and for staying around and watching my videos throughout me not being on YouTube for over a year. It's an issue. It's really a problem. I'm gonna try to do better. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I maybe hope I gave you guys some inspiration too for some books to read this October, and hopefully this video will actually keep me keep me invested in actually finishing them and reading them. So yeah. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.